Modise. I'm all the way from South Africa. I am in climate finance, climate technology, and overall activist. Very excited. I think, Amber, you set a good tone around what's happening in the world. But I must also just say it's amazing to be in Portugal. I was in London for 3 weeks for my sins. It was cold, it was raining. And then I fly into Portugal. It's sunny and everybody's amazing. And I think one thing I also looked at yesterday is that kids are happy. They're smiling, they greet you. So there's something special about this place, and I'm very, very excited, and I'm very grateful that Vanessa was able to invite me, and Amber as well. So I'm going to introduce a wonderful panel, right? They are fabulous, besides being smart. They are amazing, they are energized, and they're very passionate. And our topic this morning is about innovation for the future. Very, very broad topic, but I love the fact that the people that I'm going to bring on the stage have a focus on sustainability, have a focus on data, have a focus on finance. And also we have an opportunity to engage people that have a lot of experience. And now that the world is coming back to Mother Nature, let's have a conversation around innovation in the space. So without further ado, and a very warm welcome to my panelists, which then I will introduce. Bright and sunny in the morning. So my panelists are amazing individuals. They've done a lot of amazing work. They've had great careers. And they are very, very passionate about nature, passionate about climate change, passionate about finding solutions, not just being part of the problem, but being the reason why we solve for this problem. And as a collective, but let me just officially just introduce them and their names. So to my right, I have Professor, a doctor actually, Sabine Seymour, regenerative punk. That's such a cool description of her. She's very funky, she's very punky, is a data economist, body sensorist, and creative scientist focused on biometric and environmental data and conscious artificial intelligence to achieve a regenerative lifestyle. Can we give her a warm hand of applause? We then have Antonio Vasconcelos. Yay, my Portuguese is getting better by the day. Executive leader of the Planeteers, new generation and co-leader of Ensure Hub. Innovation in sustainability and regeneration, founded by the Catholic University in Porto, and with Planeteers movement and counting with more than 80 international entities as ecosystem members. Can we give him a warm hand of applause? Thank you. Last but not least, we have Michael Naylor, and he's the chairman of the board of Jupiter Green Investment Trust, PLC, a company listed on the main market of the London Stock Exchange and recognized as one of the UK's leading sustainability investing companies. Can we give Michael a hand of applause? Wonderful. So, my first question to my wonderful panelists is, what is your claim to fame? Besides what I've just said and how I've introduced you, what is your claim to fame? Sabine, we'll start with you.
Well, claim to fame is very simple. I'm a body sensorist, so all my work is around data on the body. And I wrote a few books on that topic, and I have started wearable technologies and worked in it since the 90s. So I coined a term called fashion tech.
Oh, wonderful. That's something great to be remembered for. Thanks, Sabine. Antonio, what's your claim to fame?
So I'm a business strategy person that works with business without understanding the limits, environmental and social limits around, until I met the pitch of Indra Nooyi in 2010, and I realized that PepsiCo, and we were starting a project, and there was like the rules of the game. It was performance with purpose. And then I went to Stockholm to learn with scientists that had created scientific consensus on defining sustainability back in 1989.
Before sustainability was sexy. Thank you so much, Antonio. Michael, what is your claim to fame?
Yeah, Matsi, I suppose my real claim to fame is that I'm a pretty good bobsleigh pilot. But not a lot of people know that. Okay, so that's my probably greatest claim to fame. But I think that might have something to do with risk and managing risk. Yeah. And for most of my career, I've been in the business of taking risks in the investment world. And towards the end of the 90s, with my business partner, we had a successful exit, and we then changed our strategy entirely. So in 2000, we were one of the early investors in the renewable energy business. And I find myself today, as you mentioned in the opening, that I chair the oldest, actually the oldest investment trust probably in the world, going back to 1988. So I suppose my claim to fame is I've stayed the course. I'm still investing, still a signal angel in more now disruptive and emerging technology. But I've been on the journey from the early days of renewable to where we are today in climate intelligence.
Great. Well, if technology allows, there's a couple of videos for Sabine and also Michael's initiative. So we could play some of them just to illustrate the wonderful work that you've been doing. Olivia, are we good for the tech? Great, wonderful. So give it a few minutes.
The story begins with an escapee pony. Wait, let's begin with the bigger picture. Biodiversity. It's the foundation of our planet. But it's in serious trouble. One of the main reasons being how we produce our food. Just 4 crop varieties account for half of the world's food. A loss of biodiversity on farmland equals risks to our food supplies and enormous economic impacts. Enter Pony Earth. An unlikely band of individuals, scientists, tech and data nerds, artists and farmers, working together to bring back biodiversity to farmland. Scientists collect data from farms to make biodiversity on farmland measurable. From the data, we create a biodiversity standard for farmland, a benchmark for biodiversity. Pony Earth then works with farmers to achieve the standard. We visualize the biodiversity data in NFT artwork that we sell to power the Pony Earth movement. We're using NFTs as a vehicle to do social and environmental good. We like to call it re-art, regenerative art. Re-art proceeds go to farmers to help them become biodiversity stewards. Want to get involved? Check out the Pony Earth website. Oh, and about the pony, in 2021, a pony appeared on the first Pony Earth farm, aka Living Lab. The pony had escaped from a nearby farm. We took it as a sign.
Great, join the pony revolution. Thanks, Sabine. And then just some visuals from Michael's initiatives.
No, you would be able to see them. Yeah, no, these are not videos, but these are just a few images. We have, on the natural capital side, we have become involved in one of the world's largest kelp farming businesses. These photographs are actually taken off the coast of Luderitz in Namibia, where we secured the first concession for growing giant kelp. This is a company called Blue Kelp. There may be another slide to show. We're very pleased to say that Blue Kelp has got down to the final 20 for Elon Musk's X Prize. So it's a $50 million first prize that will be announced on Earth Day next year. But the leadership team of Blue Kelp go to Musk's San Francisco Carbon Removal Conference in September. So Blue Kelp's come from 1,600 shortlisted companies down to the final 20. But I think what I'm most proud of to be associated with Blue Kelp is it's the only company shortlisted for the X Prize that actually has a business in Africa. And out of the 20 finalists, it's the only company that is representing natural capital. Everything else is coming from really an extractive or a chemical process for decarbonization, whereas Blue Kelp is something very different. So just be aware on Earth Day next year, see if we land it. We won the Zayed Prize at COP this year. and we're also shortlisted for the Moonshot Prize for His Royal Highness Prince William and the initiative there. But you know, let's Earthshot, yeah, sorry, not Moonshot, Earthshot. Let's see how we do with Musk. And you know, like my learned panelist here, we are inspired by nature, and we're out there producing a biostimulant which has been now put on 40 ambassador farms around the world with pretty startling results. So we're excited about this. I think there's one more company in the portfolio of mine that we look at. Maybe if we can just switch the slide. We reimagined micromobility a little bit in India. There was a very well-known company started by an entrepreneur called Shai Agassi, called Better Place, that burned through a lot of money and got battery swapping wrong. I just think it wasn't a good product market fit. He did us a great favor. We decided to reimagine the battery swap model for tuk-tuks in India. And we're now the #1 battery swapping company in India. We started this about 7 years ago. And right now we're covering about 32 million kilometers a month in electrified tuk-tuks and scaling this business quite rapidly. So it's another example of the portfolio that I'm behind. Good. Thanks.
Wonderful, thank you. What I love about the panelists is they're not, well, they are activists, because you should hear the heated debates we've been having since we all met, but they're also actionists. They're people that are doing the work that must be done and are very passionate about it. So, Sabine, my first question is, what's the role of data in innovation? And how is it currently morphing given the rise of artificial intelligence?
So we do have a lot of data currently available, as we heard yesterday from Joanna, a lot of IPCC scientific or science information. However, the problem there, I do regard, is that a lot of data is not necessarily a lot of wisdom. So we need to contextualize data, then we need to really create information out of the data. And at the end of the day, we need to create what I refer to as the wisdom in data. And that means that we have to find the right solutions to tackle some of the issues. And very easily put is the example of Pony Earth, for example. It's about very clearly what is the relationship between the soil microbiome and the gut microbiome of our human body. And the relationship is with food. So the food is actually the centerpiece. Is the quality of the food good, then the quality of our gut biome is good. But the quality of the food depends on the soil health. So that's where the data is coming from, right? We need to basically understand that data. But what is it? If the food is then processed again and the food system itself is not good, the data can be good. But then it still has a negative impact on our gut biome because it is processed. So again, we need to create wisdom. We need to understand that data itself means nothing if it is not put into context. And on top of that, I usually refer to information or say that data currently can actually be used and computed very well using machine learning or artificial intelligence. However, AI, again, needs to be conscious, needs to have that wisdom, needs to be ethical, needs to be moral, and this is not happening right now. I don't see it. And I would love to see, competition in a way that it uses data and analyzes the data and creates solutions that are really for humans, for the planet, for the environment, and not necessarily just to make the profit at the end of the day.
It sounds like we need to connect the dots. I think
yes,
the
sir.
common theme around this weekend is around the ecosystem, right? Things need to come together. Antonio, what role does innovation play as business practices are now having to be more sustainable?
That is a very interesting question because we have traditionally innovation came out of business, and so there was a lot of innovation for bringing businesses to the forefront, to make more and more money, to create, to create amazing things for humanity, but we did not know that we were acting within limits. And we did not know that there were limits, you know. So we were living, we were living for 10,000 years in this system that is the Holocene, and then suddenly in just some decades, we got hold of the planet. And so the problem is we need to understand what is the system of equations around the business. And because innovation needs to play with all those elements, so economic activity and the amazing discoveries, but they need to work within planetary boundaries and within social conditions. And understanding these social and environmental conditions is absolutely key. I give you an example. We have now all this thing with AI that is amazing. It will change the world dramatically. But at the same time, we are transgressing more and more planetary boundaries, for instance, with AI, because the way things are settled right now, it accelerates at a pace that the consumption of energy, water, etc., it becomes impossible. So we need to find a way for these amazing innovations not to have negative consequences, right? Unintended ones.
Great. So innovation as an accelerator of sustainability. I like that. And then Michael, being the money guy on the panel, someone has to fund this transition. Technologies must be created. There must be investments in research and development. What role does finance play in this trajectory?
Do you want me to link that to AI, Matsi?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, link that to AI a little bit. Well, I think first of all, that there's plenty of money in the world. We know that. And there's plenty of money looking to be deployed as growth capital. That is not the issue. It's finding the entrepreneurs who understand this very fast-moving marketplace that can put businesses together with the right product market fit and really understand what venture scale is. So if you're looking at venture capital funding, you've got to be looking at venture scale, not just building a nice small business. The AI question is an interesting one because there's an enormous amount of money being put into AI at the moment. We're probably heading to something close to $1 trillion of investment. And that money has to find a return. And if really all it's doing is copying somebody's voice or producing funky art for children, writing speeches, it's obviously not enough. So how are these investors going to get a return for this money that they're putting up? And I just sort of remember the early days of the internet, and I'm sure there are people here who might remember this. The early internet was, it was dial-up, right? It was a dial-up process. You couldn't file share, so there was no chance of Instagram or social media. And then, the telecom companies invested huge amounts of money in building the infrastructure for broadband. And then the dot-com bubble burst, and they were left with this infrastructure, and people said, okay, what's going to happen? And of course, what then came was the second wave of that, which is where we are today. So I think I'm a little more positive on AI, because I'm starting to see winning applications where AI is really driving value in businesses. There's a company that I'm invested in that now has a unique copper alloy. We've done 14 missions with the Falcon 9 into space, where we build the nose cone of the rocket, or part of the nose cone, out of copper and the engine linings. And the nose cone and the engine lining are actually coming back down to Earth and been reused. Yeah? So it's reusable. That alloy was developed only because we had the benefit of AI in the process. So it was like an early day of a daguerreotype, when they were trying to fix the photo. They couldn't fix the image. And it sort of happened by chance with chemicals in a cupboard. We can now cut short maybe 20 years of work into a year. So, and this has become an extremely valuable business. So I'm sort of feeling that what we're seeing in AI with the building of these large GPU data centers and even the world's largest private equity funds, buying these chips. And when we talk about chips, remember, they're not something that's small. This is, lots of racking. A chip is $20,000, $30,000. And private equity funds are buying their own GPU units to accelerate the innovation of their portfolio companies. So we're living in a very different world, right? And this has to be financed. So it's a complex ecosystem, but at the end of the day, to really summarize your question, you are either an innovator and you're at the disruptive end of the market, you're an accelerator, right, taking something into high growth, or you're investing in something called an established player. And my business is the innovation and the acceleration. And there, I will say, there is a lot of growth capital to be had.
Okay, I have more questions about that, but later. Sabine, nature and data. It's an interesting one, right? You spoke about the work that you do within your own organization, but when I was growing up, even now, I would never have thought that there is a science to measuring data in nature. Tell us more about that.
Well, if you look into the opportunity to understand the soil, and I really want to just speak about soil because that's, sort of like my center interest. And that means what is the eDNA, meaning that as we can do an DNA analysis from the body, we can do also an environmental DNA analysis from the soil. So we understand which type of fungi, flowers, the microbiome even, of the actual soil itself, through also chemical analysis, through also understanding which metals there are, through also satellite information, which can actually dig down to about 10 to 20 centimeters into the soil. You understand the weather pattern, you understand the amount of humus, which actually talks about then, or you can identify the water retention. So all this information is there. We all have it. It's all there. And to Michael's point about data and about AI, I actually do not share your point of view, as we know. And that is that there is the abundance of data, there is the abundance of capital, yes, but the match is not there. And that is that currently about 1/3 of the data is in data centers that is owned by AWS, Amazon. And that about 20 to 25% is with Google, and another 20 or so percent with Microsoft Azure. Those are also the companies that own the current big AI investments, right? So OpenAI, for example. You have Anthropic. You have, Gemini, that is by Google. You have. So you have a monopoly. So in my opinion, innovation is supposed to be a lot of small players that really do qualitative work, highly specialized, really understand what they're going for. Right now we have LLMs, generative AI products, with billions of dollars of investment in 4 different companies worldwide. And there's only one, and those are both based in the US. So you have one in France that actually received an investment of 800 million on an 8 billion valuation. Elon Musk just raised, what, 8 billion? He raised just 8 billion. So how can we compete? So long story short, I think that right now also nature, and I don't want to call it nature because all the food, our life support system, which is water and food, is in the hands of very few. And the information that we do have, we would like to make a change, but again, this is impossible because you can't compete with the with the money being just in the hands of very few. So anyway, I would love to have more innovation happening in this space, but not through monopolies.
So it's a gap, it's an opportunity.
It is a huge gap, huge gap.
Great. And then Antonio, in terms of, I love the fact that you've been at this before, right? It was something, right? Sustainability, I think, in the past few years, now all companies have to report. You know, there's ESG reporting. Some are happy to report because they understand the why part, and some see it as just a tick box exercise and compliance. What should we do to ensure that companies go beyond reporting when it comes to sustainability? And it's something that's at the heart of how they do sustainable practices.
Very key question, because we have the EU leading this on compliance reporting regulation, raising the bar. That is very important, first of all, complying and raising the bar to comply in the report is very important. But the real opportunity lies in having business leaders understanding what sustainability is, not to go on checklists, but to really mobilize their management teams, to mobilize all their people, to mobilize their communities, to mobilize all suppliers, all customers, etc., across all the value chain, because even the issue is along the value chain. And what I realize when I work with businesses, first of all, is that business leaders are not on board. So it's very technical people doing communication for sustainability and doing some, double materiality analysis, etc. And I find very strange things because, all these consultancies helping, do the checklist, they don't find things that it's impossible not to find. For example, what to say if a food company, and this is a real story right now, through going through stakeholders and trying to understand what the issues are, does not find agriculture. What do you tell me if they don't understand, if they don't find agriculture in the value chain because it's 2 or 3 steps upstream of food processing? And so this is a process of discovery. And when people discover and CEOs are on board and they understand that this is like managing with new lenses and realizing that you need to be systemic, you need to understand value chains, you need to mobilize all, and to really have your point of view and not ask to banks what they think are the checklist issues, but think really across all the value chain. Understand your key suppliers. Really try to understand what they are doing and not, going through, some certifications. And then you start realizing the real story.
Thank you so much for that, Antonio. And then Michael, in terms of the great ideas, right, because there's lots and lots and lots of money available, many would beg to differ and say that, well, where is this money? And it's a function of how do you speak the language of an investor, right? Because if the money is there, how do I, as a tech entrepreneur or an innovator that wants some early stage investments, how best do I position myself to be able to access that money?
In the context of a startup?
Correct, let's say startups.
Well, I think the important thing is, you start a journey on a startup, and I think first of all, so I advise a lot of young entrepreneurs in the space who ask me this very question. I think the role of the mentor is really important. So, anybody out there looking to raise seed capital, it's better to have somebody who's been down that road before and knows some of the pitfalls along the way. So I think, particularly here in Portugal, the young entrepreneurs that I meet, the ones that are getting funded have very good mentors around them. I mean, obviously, you need to be relevant, and we're talking about quite important cutting-edge ideas here. And I think if you don't have a seat at the table, you're going to be on the menu, basically. So you really have to be up to date on product market fit and where the opportunity is, and that's why a lot of these startups don't raise money. And then you've got to really show that you are at venture scale, and that is that's difficult. And again, it's where the mentor comes in terms of building management teams. But you pull that together. There's enough early stage capital, and here in Portugal too, that's willing to back younger entrepreneurs. I'm not seeing a disconnect here. And then, at a sort of slightly later stage, as companies head to Series A, there are a lot of investors, positioned out in Europe who are very interested to participate in Portugal now. I mean, when I first came to Portugal in the late 80s, it was considered an emerging market. I mean, it was really, quite a different story. Now Portugal is seen as a pretty sophisticated place to grow and scale a business. And certainly, I've invested quite a lot in Africa, as you know, which has its own challenges, and also in India. Look, these also have their own challenges, but at the end of the day, it's about having that management team that fits the market and the alignment of product market fit. Once you've got that, start networking, work with your mentor, and you'll raise the money. If you don't, come and see me.
Open invitation. Well, I'm going to open it up to our audience if you have some questions. To our various esteemed panelists, anyone having any questions around funding, around sustainability, around data? Amber? Can we have some mics, please?
So my question is about the amount of energy that AI requires. And with the amazing innovations that are going on with regards to renewable energy at the moment, and we know that that's growing and that's brilliant, but all of the energy which is now being required to go into AI is completely offsetting all the great work which is being done to move towards renewables. That blows my mind slightly. And I'm also like, why is this even being allowed? Why are we inventing something which requires such extraordinarily intense amounts of energy?
Sabine?
I imagine.
Yeah, I have all the numbers, so you can come to me about numbers as well. But the thing, very simply put, artificial intelligence, the way it is actually used now is more sophisticated machine learning than actually AI. It's just for the sake of simplification, let's call it AI. One is the problem with the language that is used. So Python is the primary computing language that is used to create anything around AI. It's also the second highest energy consuming programming language there is. So yes, so we need to figure that out. The second is with AI, with the computation, the energy that is used is not only used for the actual computation itself, but it is also used, and that is going through from one server to the other, that's going, the actual creation of the code and computation. It's also, all the data that is used is stored somewhere. So it is hardware that is stored somewhere. That hardware actually needs to be manufactured. So we need precious metals. The more data there is, the more hardware there is, the more data centers there are. So we all know these problems, absolutely. So what we need is, first of all, we need a much better data management. We need to have a much smarter AI. We need to be much more focused, not computing so much nobody really needs. Also, I know everybody loves social media, but you're basically polluting the world with social media. I'm so sorry. No, physically polluting the world, not just with mentally. And the other thing is also the same with any type of AI. We have an overconsumption. Yesterday, Sian, you told us about plastic and overconsumption and so forth. We all consume so much physical, excuse my French, shit, right? And then we need to store it somewhere. And then, you have storage warehouses you can, rent for a month or for years, and you completely forgot that you have it. The same with all the millions of photos you've taken for no reason whatsoever, because in reality, 1 out of 1,000 photos is the one that you look at. So what is with the other 999 photos? So it's the same thing with AI. AI is now using so much energy, so much of our natural capital, of our resources, of our human brains, which is unnecessary. It's an overconsumption of digital, and nobody really thinks about it. So Amber, fantastic question, because it is a direct relationship with AI digital media or social media and with our environment. And nobody understands it either. So it's very, very important we think about that too. And this means that at the end of the day, the bottom line shall not be how much money can I make or how much money can I raise. And again, raising money is a whole other story. We can talk about that too, because I'm a woman in technology. It's a completely different story. So again, great question. We need to be much smarter in all the things that we do.
It strikes me that the naming it the cloud was one of the greatest misnomers of all time.
Exactly.
Because we all sort of think of it just hanging out somewhere, super chill. We do not imagine those great big consuming data centers.
I'd say at the risk of kicking something off with Sabine, and we have
Yeah,
great
well,
rapport
it's
here.
good.
So,
I just have to manage time.
Can I have a go at just
But we
answering that?
could, yes, go for it.
Yeah, so Amber, what I really like about your question is you used the right word. You used energy, not electricity. Right? So you've got to differentiate between the two. But the number is pretty frightening. So if we're talking about somewhere between, something getting close to $1 trillion, probably 20% of that is going into just the energy to drive the AI machine. So these numbers are really, really significant in terms of energy draw that's coming. The only positive you can say is that the bet, and it is a financial bet, is that it's going to drive innovation and efficiency that's going to mean it's worth it. But the jury's out. The jury is out on that point. But we also, and this is where it's could go a little bit wrong here, we have other things to fix as well. So when people talk about renewables, I was an early investor in renewables going back to 2000, some of the early wind farms in Europe, when it was really, really small. I mean, they were just 10, 20 megawatts of wind, not gigawatts of wind. It was really, really early days. Fantastic for solving the issue of electricity. Yeah? So you can have 20, 30, 40, 50% of electricity produced from wind and solar farms. And obviously the price came down. We've seen the price of batteries come down. In fact, solar and batteries came down in price a lot quicker than wind. The reason was, in the case of wind farms, you had steel. It wasn't just material science and chemistry. But in the case of AI, we have some real challenges on cost. But we also have real challenges with just how much coal is burnt in the world, because this is about thermal energy. And we have problems around the world's largest aluminium smelters, some of which are in Africa, the world's largest glass plants, the world's largest steel plants. Yeah? This is not an electricity draw that you can solve entirely with renewables. You need thermal power. So we've got real challenges when it comes to the energy equation, not just because of AI, but because of all of these hard-to-abate areas which have huge demands on energy as opposed to just fixing electricity. Yeah? So you asked the right question. The answer is, let's hope that it works out, because people have put a lot of money into the bet. And the jury's out at the moment, as you can hear on the panel today.
We do better when we know better. I mean, if I knew that I should take less selfies and pictures because it's saving the earth, I would do that, right? So that's why we have platforms like this. That's why we have media has to play a better role, right? The media that's controlling the narratives has to play a better role at sharing the essence of why we are all here, and we should just do very sustainable practices. Any other questions? Okay, there's a gentleman there in the back.
Michael, on the kelp production that you have in Namibia,
Yeah.
do you use AI on the business?
So it's around data, yeah. So that is focused in two areas. One is the satellite monitoring. Yeah. So there's an AI there for resonance. Yeah, and on the data collection side, you could be a lot more efficient. I mean, on a very basic level, in the business itself, AI has been used by the team to find out some quite basic things. So, for example, if you need to know, we're hiring 100 people at the moment in Namibia. We're looking at salaries around the country, but we're also looking at salaries elsewhere in Africa, doing comparative studies. That would be something that you would have paid, a university graduate to work on for a month, on a fairly decent salary. You can now instruct, ChatGPT to research all the salary levels across 10 African countries, tabulate it, produce the sources, and it'll do it in 30 minutes, yeah? So in that end, there is an efficiency gain at that very, very basic level. The more sophisticated level, it's the satellite imagery and the resonance where it's playing a role. And where it will get really interesting is on the decarbonization angle, because at the moment, it's not fully accredited for that. They're working on that. I'm also an investor in this company you may have heard of called Silvera, which was formed to stop people cheating around carbon credits. So we're the sort of Standard & Poor's and Moody's rating the quality of a carbon credit. Yeah? So at the moment, we're selling our credits from Kelp Blue to De Beers, who are mining the diamonds down the road, massively carbon intensive. So they were very keen to buy them from us for pure greenwash reasons. Yeah? But in time, hopefully, companies like Silvera will be making sure that actually the amount of CO2 that we say has been sequestered to the bottom of the Benguela Current is actually accurate and staying there. And that is where AI probably has real value in the future, to make sure we're getting those numbers correct. Because the reason Silvera has become such a valuable company, yeah, and it's ranked number 4 in the top 100 in Europe now, is because actually chief executives were just terrified. They were buying these credits to discover that maybe in a year that the forest was not even standing, to Sabine's point, right? So AI is coming into that verification model, but that's more in the future. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, great, thanks.
Any other questions from this side of our audience? We're rather quiet this morning. Have we had our coffee? We need more coffee? No, if there aren't any more questions, I do think that you added very valuable insights. It talks to creating ecosystems, connecting the dots, the ecology, the data around ecology and nature. And yeah, there has to be more clarity and awareness, and that's why I think, Amber, Vanessa, what you've created with the Hangouts is very, very valuable, because now I'm going to stop taking more selfies because it's not good for nature, and I'll also encourage my other friends not to do that, because we have to just be more aware of our human behavior towards nature, and that's what will contribute towards the targets. And behind targets are people, right? Behind people created this mess, and people can solve for this mess. So I just would like to give you an opportunity to do any final remarks, so that our audience can take something that's actionable around how they see the space that we're in. I'll start with you, Sabine.
Wow, that's a big question. So I do a lot of things. So actually, so one thing is public transportation, and also catching rides with as many people as you can, and walking. So just a little, give you a little glimpse of what I find really ridiculous is walking in Lisbon, and I got this guy come up to me who said, I need a gym that has a great treadmill. And I'm like, you are in Lisbon. Really? Like, you want to go inside, pay membership for a treadmill that is built in a built building, and there is Lisbon. I don't understand. So long story short, I think most of the things that I like to do is consciously just like not do what is, in my opinion, just an overkill, and just go back to the old-fashioned way. And I like to just go around the corner and the next block up and the next block up, and maybe the next, take my bike to the next village over, because the bread there is made by an old lady with the flour from the other guy, etc., etc. So, and this is basically my exercise. I don't need to go to the gym. I do that. Do you see what I'm saying? Or I cook at home. People go, I need to do yoga sessions. Go and learn how to cook. And our cooking is the best yoga there is. You know, so it's just simple things like that. Sorry, I can go on forever.
The talk. No, Sabine. No, Sabine walks the talk because yesterday evening she was trying to hitch a hike, right? Who's going into Lisbon? So she's not fluffing about this thing of let's try do things collectively and let's just be practical. Thanks so much, Sabine. Antonio?
I would keep a bit in line with this pitch, which is we need to understand how to develop our activity, how to do good, and what does that mean in terms of the dimensions, right? Environmental and social. Social and environmental, they need to play together. So you were mentioning about the soils and then the health of our gut, etc. It is very important to understand there is like a ping pong between health and the environment. Is the health of the planet, is our health, all combined. We will not, the fight we have in front of us is the survival of our species, is not the survival of the planet as a whole. So let's do good things, but let's learn, let's try to get good information, not not some ideas that are very strange, like this material is good, that material is, one is the angel, the other is the devil. That normally does not work. We need to do steps to improve the sustainability of all materials, of everything. So more local, more shorter value chains, things like that is a good way to start to recommend, right?
Thank you, Antonio. Michael?
Yeah, Matsi, I mean, just to finish, I think there's been two strong themes that came off the panel today. One would be creativity. I mean, we're obviously challenging the AI model. One thing that AI can't take away is that just amazing human creativity. There's a lot of young people in the room here today. And I've heard some of the presentations, and they're not getting those presentations from a chat GPT. They're writing them themselves, and they're being creative. So that's really important, and chapeau to you for that. And the other is really around this word efficiency. We've just got to become vastly more efficient. And so with those two themes, I would just say, if there are young people here who are budding entrepreneurs and they're thinking about that, if you've got ideas that focus on your own creativity and a business plan that is around efficiency, then come and talk to me, and I'll help you find the money. And I'm also looking forward to seeing Sabine's pitch deck too, because I think everything she's doing is fantastic.
Wonderful.
And it is all about creativity, and it's all about efficiency, and that's the name of the game.
I'm working on a new form of organization that has nothing to do with the current startup model, so I'm not sure you're going to see my pitch deck.
Okay, panelists. All right, panelists, on that wonderful note, let's give them a warm hand of applause. You're all fabulous. And thank you for your time. Thank you so much for your time.